In the name of the Creator, the Redeemer, and the Holy Sustainer. Who can tell me a word or a concept that stands out in today's lessons? What word did you hear in Deuteronomy, in the Psalm, and what Jesus referred to in his gospel? Anyone, shout it out. Don't be shy. What did you hear?
Choose.
Okay, that's not what I'm going for, but that's a good one. What word or concept? Commandment. Excellent. I know that immediately the image of the Ten Commandments pops into our minds. Maybe even an image of Moses, his beard flowing, his nostrils flaring, standing in front of the people with the two big stone tablets. From time to time, we even hear about fights breaking out between Christian groups and the local government about putting up reproductions of the Ten Commandments on the county lawn. We live in a country where church and state are separate, We live in a country where church and state are separate with all religions given the freedom to worship. Sometimes reality breaks loose from theory or law, so it is up to us to help preserve this tenet of our country. Now, how many of us love to be commanded or ordered to do something? We Americans certainly seem to bristle when commanded. Sometimes our children balk at parental commands, or workers passively, aggressively react to orders from the boss. What are our feelings with these commandments that are tied to our relationship with God? Our collect for today tells us that in keeping God's commandments, we may please the Creator, both in will and deed. Is this a conscious effort on our part when we start our day? Do we ask, how may we please you, God? Wait for the answer and then go forth to do this? Do we monitor our actions, noting whether we are pleasing God during the course of the day? Do we end our day in prayer, listing the ways we have done so? I am sure there are some who can do this, but I imagine the majority of us might have other conversations with God. Moses tells his people in this reading from Deuteronomy about a very special commandment of covenantal fidelity, a sacred oath to serve God. In the verses right before today's reading, Moses tells them, "This is not too hard for you, nor is it too far away. It is not in heaven that you should say, 'Who will go up to heaven for us and get it for us so that we may hear it and observe it?' Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, 'Who will cross to the other side of the sea for us and get it for us so that we may hear it and observe it?'" Do you notice the willingness of letting someone else give the commandment? A really passive sign of human nature. Moses then tells them that the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart for you to observe. Nice. You mean, Moses, that we are to take on the responsibility ourselves? Moses goes on to say that life and prosperity, death and adversity, all of these things are being set before them. If the commandments are obeyed by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways and observing his commandments, decrees and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. How wonderful. That's all we have to do? Now remember the grumblings and rumblings of the Israelites on the long trek from Egypt to the Promised Land. What do you think is going through their minds as Moses tells them this? Then he says, "But if your heart turns away and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess." How many could say at that point that they have followed the Lord entirely in their hearts and done everything with the Lord in mind? What a frightening proposition. If one strays, kabam! The chances of perishing are pretty high. life and death, blessings and curses. Not too much wiggle room there. Moses does encourage them to choose the right way, but circumstantial evidence had already been gathered against some of their actions already. In a program called Countering Pharaoh, Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann says, in the first 3 commandments we find statements about God's holiness, and we must understand that God is not available for our partisan control, whether it be for war or even stewardship campaigns. God is not used by us. Brueggemann goes on to say that in Psalm 50 we hear affirmation of this. Hear, O my people, and I will speak. O Israel, I will bear witness against you, for I am God, your God. I do not accuse you because of your sacrifices. Your offerings are always before me. I will take no bull calf from your stalls, nor he-goats out of your pens. For all the beasts of the forest are mine, the herds in their thousands upon the hills. I know every bird in the sky, and the creatures of the fields are in my sight. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the whole world is mine and all that is in it. Do you think I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer to God a sacrifice of thanksgiving, and make good your vows to the Most High. Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall honor me. Another way of Moses saying, keep your pledge, your oath of love and loyalty to God, and God will keep his chesed, his everlasting love for you. In today's gospel reading, Jesus continues his teaching to the disciples and the crowds. He invokes 3 of the commandments to them. Jesus expands their understanding because he had told them he did not come to abolish the law or the prophets, but to fulfill them. His first example is murder, a pretty bad one. But Jesus shows them that there are lesser infractions that can cause serious judgment as well. To choose to be angry with our brothers and sisters in a way that separates us from that relationship is not a healthy matter, whether it be politics or Super Bowl results. Nothing will be made right again unless we reconcile ourselves with them. It does no good to carry grudges and try to act as if nothing has happened. Passive-aggressive behavior is still aggression. Our acts have consequences, and we must choose to be truthful at all times, in our hearts and in our actions with others. Next, Jesus takes on adultery. Remember, those of us who were around for a while, remember when President Jimmy Carter got into huge trouble, I think it was a Playboy article, with admitting he had committed adultery by having lust in his heart. See, he was paying attention to this gospel. The drama about tearing out eyes and chopping off the right hand is not, I repeat, is not to be taken literally. Thank goodness we are a metaphor understanding, have metaphor understanding of the Bible. It is to get to the cause of why someone would choose adultery over a committed relationship with a spouse. We tend to recoil at this passage, but think how the audience at that time would have reacted. Life with one eye in any period of time would be difficult, but the action of ripping out one's eye in a time when there was no possibility for reconstructive surgery would have been gruesome. To cut off one's right hand would have put people in a very difficult spot because the left hand was considered dirty, and people could not have used it for eating in public or shaking hands. And this is still the case in the Middle East today. If one is truthful in vows taken in marriage, then no one should face difficulty. The last one for today is about, you shall not swear falsely. One's word is a sacred bond with the Lord. If we choose to speak falsely, then we cannot be trusted. One needs to be truthful and speak simply, yes, yes, or no, no. 'Tis better to be plain spoken than get caught up in a web of lies to God. All of this goes back to the original premise of using one's heart and mind to choose the better way in any decision or action that comes our way. The first three commandments guide us in our relationship with God. We are to recognize and honor this relationship by not using God to support our own individual purposes. Commandments 5 through 10 show us how to respect the neighborhood, as Walter Brueggemann explains. If we respect life and relationships, then we will choose a path of truthfulness and justice among our families, our friends, our local and national communities. The last commandment shows us that we need not covet more than our fair share in this life. Our choices in life will determine our journey in this world. When we slip and choose the way that produces suffering, injustice, and inequality for our neighbors, then we must do a turnaround and choose better. It is our gift of free will, and it is also our responsibility to our communities to do the best we can, knowing that God's love is always there to guide and strengthen us. Let us pray from Stephen Shakespeare. Living one, in whose freedom creation was born as gift, free us from the need to possess, define, and silence others, that we might rejoice in the strangeness of our beauty revealed in flesh and blood through Jesus Christ, our reconciliation.